Ooh. And the Glasgow Celtic will be there. Hail, hail! Good to see you all. Fist bumps on arrival. A wee bit later than originally intended. Apologies. Minnie Quinny had to go and see the little doctor. Wee bit of itchies and all that kind of stuff. So apologies, we're a wee bit later. And I'm not too sure how long we're going to go for, because with Topic Tuesday, one thing I wanted to get established with this is try and get a post out on YouTube ahead of time. You guys could vote on some topics that we could get ready for, and kind of all bring our A game with in the live chat, and from everything that we do here. Again, sadly, just with this being the second little iteration, a little episode, not quite because of the weekend. The game was on Sunday. It's kind of hard to think too far ahead of time what would be a good thing to sit and chat about. So I've kind of got two things batting about, and any recommendations or any suggestions from you guys are always welcome as well, of course. But I've got one that's very football focused, and another one is football focused, but it's based in the terraces, and that maybe gives it away in itself. I was thinking, we've had the links this morning to Rogza, the Strumt Graz midfielder. Last time we were chatting about the links that we've had to Elijah Just and Miguel Chaiwa kind of chime up in the last week or so as well. And I was, just kind of thinking how, in terms of the topic or whatever, bit of a departure from the norm. We've looked in a video a week or two ago, really the state of the squad come this summer. And a natural progression in terms of what we're going to chat about on the channel would be, we need to be doing business now. And we are not doing business now, but with the Sriracha stuff as well, and Julian Araujo has been questioned quite a bit, there's certainly a feel that we're mobilized, that people are out there trying to do business before the window opens. What a topic that is. The second thing that's batting about is, I'm seeing all the kind of whispers and the rumours on the timeline and everywhere else that you guys are. The Celtic have met up with the Green Brigade and other fan groups and whatever. Maybe it's just the Green Brigade specifically, and there is no further progression with that. And I don't think so. Again, I think that's a topic in itself of the impact of the home support for the run-in, because all the good performances we've had recently have been away from Celtic Park. Ibrox back-to-back Cup and League. Before that as well, away to Aberdeen. I was also at home to Hibs. Let's maybe not talk about that too much, but away to Stuttgart, away to Kilmarnock. These have been these are the last minute goals. These have been the 1 goal difference matches that have got us 3 points here. And we can clearly see the difference in atmosphere away from home versus home. So I do think that it is, I don't want to say it's quite, it's very self-harm is what it feels like, because between now and the end of the season, we have 3 home games between now and the split, of course. And in the split, we're going to be playing Hearts and Rangers at home, 2 massive games. So we're looking at 5 matches that, when you include Motherwell into the reckoning there, pre-split, never mind St Mirren and the League and Cup at home, semi-final and all the rest of it. I don't know why. I don't know why there's such friction now. Again, I'm kind of happy to bounce between the two of them, discuss one over the other, whatever. But I want to have a wee pause, just have that's where I'm at. Let's see what you guys are thinking. Good to see you all. Good morning. Hail, hail on arrival. Make sure to smash the like button. Of course, hit subscribe if you're new around here. Hopefully the topic is the GB are back in. And yeah, it's kind of, sadly, it's kind of that, but not that. And good to see you all. Good morning. Hail, hail. And I had that was my kind of initial thought to, I posted about it as soon as it happened. I can't wait to hear how this is Celtic's fault, and that's all it's been about ever since, hasn't it? And you do feel that there is an opportunity that's maybe opened up for the club. They really clearly don't want the Green Brigade back in, and I don't know why, but see, when you listen to the radio and all these people that do come on, you do feel that the people inside the club will listen to a lot of these people that really just aren't up to speed with the situation, or not really in a position to comment on it, knowing what's really the script. And they're using that as self confirmation almost of where they sit and where they feel. And honestly, like Motherwell, I know they've kind of dropped points against Dundee at the weekend there, whatever, but that's going to be super tough. We want to get to the final now, I think. We all want Lennon versus O'Neill at the end, I think. And obviously, again, we've got St Mirren before we get to the split. So the league is so tight. It is so, so tight. Can we look at the table from this page? Yeah, we can. There is no room for error. We have to win every single game. And keeping this division between the fans and all the rest of it. And I think the sad thing is they know if they let them back in, they're going to have opposition to themselves back in the stadium. And I think that's their number one, I guess, issue with the whole situation. But I don't think anyone, again, no one's of the opinion that Celtic are doing great. I don't think anyone's of the opinion that this is the way things should be going. And like I've said since the end of the summer window, the sad reality of it, for whatever it is. Love to see it, by the way, guys. Good to see you. Apologies, I just kind of derailed myself there a wee bit with the comments. But even though there is opposition from those fans to them, the sad reality, the sad truth of the matter is the performance just flat out, and I maintain this at every turn when it comes to discussing the club hierarchy, employees, football players, managers, you name it, is it's all got to do with their performance for Celtic. I don't, and I know some people do, and I'm not trying to like exclude that or diminish it in any way. It's just not something I get involved in. Like, the politics of some people, their background, their kind of beliefs, and all that kind of stuff. For me, it's genuinely about everything to do with the running of the club and the optimization of Celtic's potential, which I think we can all see we are like so far below our ceiling right now. It is incredible. So between the kind of mixture of things that we've got here, because again, to take a step back, right? They say one thing, they continue to do that thing in the January window, which we've spoke ad nauseum about on this channel, and how that is really like, that was really like finding out there's no Christmas miracle coming, like, wow, they actually think the strategy they've been running all these years is the reason for the success, hence the loan players that we've brought in and the strategy deployed around the whole transfer window in January. And, they are steadfast in keeping on by keeping the detractors out the building. But we do have progression ahead of the transfer window. It feels like some way, somehow, like it's been a while since we've had March rumours about summer transfers. So they're kind of linked in a way, because one, it kind of paints into the whole picture of the path that we're on right now, so I'm not really too sure where to take it or where to focus or run with. Imperative we get the whole effing army back together. Going forward, this isn't a good strategy. I don't think so either, by the way. Connie, how can we bring players in with the amount of dross on the wage bill? Now, I think, Gabby boy, the thing is inevitably the squad will get thinner. It's just, I need to fix the magnification on this, I think. Well, that's actually quite nice when I zoom out a bit more rather than in. But if we look at, sorry, if I can just remove that wee comment so I can drop down, and then we hit the number two, and I think we need to go and get Ox, and there might be somebody else missing. I'll try and spot them and fix it as we go. This is the effective depth we've got. What's the real? Yeah, I think we want number one actually, don't we? Yeah, there we go. This is everyone that's kind of in the building now, and we did this in a video the other day. So feel free to check it out. It's I can't remember the name of it. I'll make sure I'll link it at the end of the video if you're watching this after we've been live. But so much of this is expected to go in the summer, from Daisen Maeda, even Rio Hatate, to a lot of these, all of these guys out of contract in the summer with us, certainly. Oxlade-Chamberlain, I actually think he's got a fair chance of getting another like 1-year deal out of us, essentially. Bernardo and Engels for very different reasons. And Vuka, of course. Forrest is out of contract end of the season. Araujo, of course, the same. Murray, Trusty Scales. Arthur will be out of here. We'll have CCV. Balquisha's not even in frame either. Osmond the same. Ralston, Welsh, Jota, AJ. Jota's probably still going to be here. We expect Balquisha to go. Welsh probably gets sold to Motherwell or whatever. Sriracha's out of contract. Schmeichel is out of contract as well. But this is the effective team come the summer. Where's Osmond? And Johnny Kenny, if you want to think about Johnny Kenny. Lewis Palmer probably gets sold, and I think we've still got Naroki on our books. Maybe Naroki's brought back into the frame, but really this is like there's no midfield, there's no forward line if you're expecting all these players to leave, which I think a lot of people are. And that's why it's imperative that we do business as soon as possible, really, I suppose. And yeah, I think this is like an opportunity that is perhaps arisen with all this caper. Rope Celtic fans in with that Ibrox nonsense at the weekend, like, and just use it to try and maybe not quite abolish, but that's definitely what they want to do, is disband them in some way, isn't it? They want to make it as hard as possible for them to now be themselves in the stadium, which is just a real shame. I'm not convinced by the transfer talk. I'm not sure we have heard it before, Craig. I think that's my main thing, where it is unusual, in my opinion, for us to get transfer rumours for the summer in March. I think that's way ahead of schedule. And I think for the domestic ones, the Rogsa thing is like whatever. I could see it. He's Polish. He scored against us. He won't be expensive. But with the Chaiwa and Just, like, I definitely feel that comes from a place of a local agent can get to the newspaper quite easily, or something not too far off that effect, essentially. But yeah, so I think that's the main thing. Yeah, will something actually be done? I'm with you there. I'm not confident, but it's definitely a difference, What about the guys out on loan? We've only got Naroki, Palma, and Kenny. And again, I think between and Welsh, of course, but I think between all of them, you would expect they would leave as well. Ralston as well. Yeah. Where is Ralston? I've got him here. I think, like, again, we did another video chat about the possibility of AJ making the World Cup, having a good shift. And again, I think he could play in a number of clubs across Europe. You guys think Yang will be off as well? Like, again, like, if you think that's the case, there's just so much business to be done. So I think in terms of the wage, I think what I was trying to remember there is what was the in terms of the wage dross that we have, like, this is going to be a purge of a window in that regard. Like, the wage bill, like I say, I think Ox is probably quite an easy retainer for next year. Plays in our, I think, like, and again, I'll just kind of say it in case anyone's new around here, right? But when we signed him, I want I want a Juninho game. I want one game where he's the difference maker. He's clear, head and shoulders, does it. We got a bit of a sign-on bonus for that goal against Livingston, so I don't really count that. The penalty against Rangers is sweet. Didn't really do much else in the game, but I think this is building into a nice little portfolio almost of a little kind of rise into the squad for Ox. So I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of the season we're all talking about him in very glowing terms, and could be a very easy add into the squad for next year, just as a kind of side note. Who knows? It could go either way, really, but I don't think he's only getting better, really, isn't he? It's maybe a wee bit slower than a lot of people would have liked. I'm not terribly surprised it's taken this long. Maybe a wee bit surprised, but not by much. I'd have liked to have seen in these last games maybe something a bit more, but anyway. Yeah. They thought they'd get away with Beaton. Exactly. And I think that's the main problem that I've always had with the club overall. There's a great way of summing up the main issues is they just underestimate everything. They underestimate Celtic's potential. They underestimate the hurdles we have to overcome, the opposition. They underestimate, what they're getting in the market, or they overestimate is probably the better way of putting it in some regard, but they underestimate what they can get as well and what they can do. And yeah, let's just hope there's not a bit of that. But yeah, I can't imagine a world where AJ goes to the World Cup, plays halfway decent, and we go into Champions League qualifiers or whatever with Ralston and Donovan. And again, no harm to Donovan, but it's not the situation we want to be in. And I do think, you could probably see if AJ left, Araujo probably signed quite swiftly. Read done enough for CPB. Fair enough. Fair enough. I could, I can see it. If he continues to be like usable from the bench for the rest of the season, you're probably just about right. But I want a Juninho game. I want one of those games where it's like, whoa, he really writes his name on it. And with that kind of as like a foundation, I think then it makes that game, I'd say it's a little portfolio that's building. I think if he has that kind of Janino type game now, bring back Palma. Please don't do that to me. Please don't do that. Yeah, I heard all the TalkSport stuff as well. They actually had like a Rangers podcaster on that went like above and beyond. Like, oh my god, it was so blatant, man. He went above and beyond to distance Rangers fans from all of it. And like, if you watch the footage, like, you really need to try to find the Celtic fans. You know what I mean? Like, it's it's just so blatant, man. So blatant. Nah, if CCV's not going anywhere. He'll run his contract out with us. He is not getting a better deal anywhere. This injury or not, I think his previous injury record is, and his lack of passing ability, like, and it's the best thing for all. Should maybe make an individual video on that thing with Vickers, because I keep repeating myself with it, and maybe it's easier just to, I don't know. It's not that anyway. Bloody blah. Just try to think. I've not got a video where like, oh yeah, we spoke about that there, because I kind of like having that. Just saves me babbling on and boring people with repetition and whatever. Donovan is a player for the future, no two ways about it. He's clearly shown that. And again, you don't really want to stifle him. So if we do retain AJ or Araujo, you really do want to be moving Ralston on. And I wouldn't be selling him. I would be loaning him out. See the same sort of deal that we had with Welsh, where it's like we can just bring him back if we want. You just keep Ralston on the books, man. Just get him out somewhere. Somebody pays most of his money. And if we ever need him, he's just on the end of the phone call, essentially, you know. I don't mind that. I really don't. It's again with Welsh, like, I know we barely used him, right, whatever, but I genuinely think, like, and Murray's been okay, Arthur looks okay, right? But Welsh has genuinely been one of the best centre-backs in the league at Motherwell in a lot of metrics. I want Balikwisha to be given a pre-season. I just think there just must be some amount of water under the bridge, because he's clearly better at football than Mvuka and some of the other guys. You know what I mean? Where there must just be like, you know, just imagine it as that workplace, you know, and some guy's been brought in, done great in the interviews or whatever, and he's just like, nah, this place isn't for me. You know, maybe it's just, there must just be some sort of mad impasse where, and then because obviously the FIFA rules, he can only play for us or Antwerp. And he's probably like, I'm not going back to Antwerp. I've left my hometown club. I'm out now. So we need to wait for MLS or something like that to happen, which doesn't feel like it's happening. Their window closes in the next 9 days or something like that. So he needs to wait for the European window thing to switch around on FIFA rules, which will be a summer move. It feels like he's gone. Depends who the manager is. And again, I think like there's a lot of moves that could and should be made regardless of the manager. The likes of the boy Rogza, if we want to have a wee peek at Rogza, he scored against us. It was an absolute golazzo, by the way. I was there for that one. Brendan Rodgers was in charge. We won the game in the end. He's not done. No, he got the assist. It was Horvat that scored the goal. Yeah, it was Horvat, wasn't it? Yeah, it was an absolute ripper. But yeah, Rogza, I don't think it was much of an assist, to be honest with you. I think he kind of squared the ball for him. But he did all right against us. It's not featured prominently. And this is like cheap Celtic, isn't it? To try and get a guy on the periphery of a team. I think Sturm Graz are up in and amongst it this year, but I don't think they're high flying. And yet, got an assist against us, banged a goal in against them. He looked good against us, you know. Made some caps against Holland and Malta off the bench, it looks like here, as well as getting some European minutes. So yeah, definitely a guy to be interested in. At 19, actually. Oh, wow, yeah, 19 makes him a lot more interesting, doesn't it? Yeah, that makes him a lot more interesting, 19. Bit of a talent. And attacking mid, maybe quite similar to Negren. What does the future hold even for McKeown if you're kind of opening this up? I've not blocked anyone. There's nobody blocked on the chat. He's maybe not subscribed. Yeah, I don't know. I've not blocked anyone. I'll go and check the thing, but it's one thing I just know. I have never blocked anyone on this channel. I just went to double check, and I was on YouTube on the other screen there, and Graham Souness on TalkSport was the thumbnail. Probably going to avoid listening to that, Swifties, but yeah, honestly, I can't speak to Recycle. What's his price? I'm not too sure, but I'll check Transfermarkt, or maybe we'll check what the rumours are. Don't think it'll be much. It's going to be like 3 million or under, isn't it? The Celtic way, everyone. Chaiwa just. We'll spend like 12 million on 4 guys. Is it Rogza? Or Rozga? Sorry. Rozga. Been calling him Rogza. I beg my pardon. It's just bringing up Rogic stuff. Yeah, I don't see anything too conclusive. Let's go to Transfermarkt. I don't think it'll be much, but he is 19, so I think, like, see whatever this is going to show us, I would probably 2x it, to be honest with you. I don't think it's going to be much. I'm going to imagine his transfer value is like around the €3 million mark, but I think with his age, yeah, 2.8 mil is his Transfermarkt value. I think to get a guy like this, you're probably needing to pay like €5 million. Which again, I wouldn't really mind, to be honest with you, but has a bit of the right mids about him, a lefty. Interesting. One thing we have really done poorly is making sure we buy players that we know where they play. Elijah Just, we know where he plays. We've seen it. Sligo boy, there we go. Told you. Is that a different Sligo boy? I don't know. Poor clearance set up their best chance for Chermiti. He actually dropped to the line and cleared it this time. A little bit of development there. I thought, honestly, all the, I mentioned obviously Arthur had a major kind of gaff and had a few of those kind of little rookie touches, I suppose, or rookie decisions. But I think like that's the thing with young defenders. And if you go all the way back to when we signed Jemai Simpson-Pussy, the number one thing I was kind of thinking like is a minimum positive outcome is that Dane Murray has got a real yardstick of a player at his age at the elite kind of youth academy level, like how good they are, how fast, how big, how powerful, how good at passing. And, when we signed JSP, I remember saying, I don't care if this guy never plays for Celtic, if it means Dane Murray plays a lot more and we see a good Dane Murray, because those two guys jostling for position. And it's different to the likes of Scales and Trusty. And, we had a big conversation about centre-back profiles back in the summer because, you then kind of factor in, what about bringing in a veteran type once in a while, to try and help develop those kind of younger players, as well as Trusty and Scales and even Vickers, very well experienced, high level. Their experience is Celtic, so they can only bring people on to a certain level, you would say, on logic. Whereas if you've got a guy, let's even call them 33, 34, maybe at a push, where they're coming from like a Champions League winning level, or they're coming from at least a top 5 league winning position, then, there's just more hope of different knowledge, different progression being kind of spread in amongst the camp or whatever. And I think Ben Arthur really is another guy just like that, in the sense of when this guy shows up, Dane Murray has to compete with him. It's another guy that lifts the bar for him. Because again, by all accounts, the way it went with GSP, I don't think he was, I don't want to say he wasn't trying or whatever, but he was pretty miffed that he wasn't like just gifted a place in the team by all accounts. And didn't want to kind of graft for it or whatever. So maybe he got a bit petulant or a bit wide or whatever. Well, with Arthur, but he's a January signing. He's maybe not quite got that same baggage. He knows it's just into the summer, and maybe there's a bit more of that veracity in training for them. I like the development we're getting from Murray this season. I think the main thing was we were chatting about reaction time in the first derby match. Second time, I just don't think we had to call upon those reactions because we did a really good job of giving them no space to play in. Oh, Eric Martel in a hype. What a shout. Is he out of contract in the summer? Eric Martel, I watched this guy play a few years ago. He was on loan from Leipzig into Austria. What team was it? Austria Vienna? I'm sure it was the purple team, wasn't it? And it was very, very good. Very, very good. Went back to Germany. He's 23 now. This guy's really good. And he is like mid-table, bottom end Bundesliga. Is a defensive mid, but has been playing centre-back, and really like anywhere he would fit into the team. I think we've spoke about him in previous videos because he's been in Bundesliga 2 for a bit. He's in the Bundesliga proper now. But he is out of contract in the summer. That would be an apex move. Honestly, like no matter where this guy will fit under any manager into the team, he is a guy that would really level us up. Yeah, Austria Vienna. It was very, very good there. And then Cologne signed him, and they were in Bundesliga too. Yeah, for a bit. But yeah, he's played centre back. He's played CDM. Big fan of this guy. Watched a good bit of German youth. I like the German youth team as well. He's a German under 21, 30 caps for them. And yeah, he's really good, man. Really good. That's a great shout and a hype. Thank you very much for that. Player I'm familiar with. Did not realise the that's a funny one, Sligo. Are you, so I'm just away to check those settings, by the way. I'm not sure. Community moderation, user management. Hidden users. Yeah, there's nobody in here. Murray clears the ball with his left foot. Ball goes anywhere. It happened on Sunday. Yeah, and I think it's just a wee bit the thing with defending is experience is so valuable. It really is a big part of it. So I guess I've kind of mentioned the fan thing. I don't think there's really much more I would want to say about it. The chat's kind of went away from it in general anyway. But overall, like if this is the state of play that we're looking at, that we spoke about the other day, the early business, if any of these things were to come off, this is all updated. Click to add a player. Boom. Okay, so let's say Chaiwa. Just. And then you're looking at this Rogza or Rosga. Chaiwa, of course, is a defensive mid, or more defensive. Makes things look a little bit better, doesn't it? And that's with Yang leaving, which I don't really believe in, to be honest with you. I think Yang's right up for being a Celtic. Yang loves Celtic, you know what I mean? Do you think we need a CB in the summer? I think we do, because I think between Trusty and Scales, I just wouldn't be. I don't want Scales to leave. I don't think Scales will be interested in leaving. But if Scales did gain attention, the club would make a lot of money on him, and he would probably be offered a lot more wages than what he's getting here. And I'm talking about like a top end championship team, maybe somebody across the continent, and it could be any number of teams from any number of leagues. Really, it just depends on what different teams are looking for, etc. And because we paid almost nothing on him, selling Scales is like clean bank, which I think the club would always entertain. Trusty, on the other hand, is a bit different, you know, but again, equally, we did have an offer allegedly from Fiorentina in January, I believe it was. And if somebody like that came in for Trusty, again, I could see the club and Trusty being all. I think they could all be up for. I think Trusty would see his career move past Celtic at some point. He has done well for us. He's had Champions League progression. Again, if he goes to the World Cup, I don't think he's likely to get much minutes for America. I think the centre back position is very competitive. He's playing at a very high level though, and he's really given himself every chance to start for them. I really wouldn't rule it out the longer I think about it, but I know generally the likes of Mark McKenzie, Miles Robinson's been favoured at times. They've had a few guys as well that have been in and around the Prem in Europe and stuff like that. A few of the names are escaping me right now, but you know, actually, it might be quite primed to come in there. Actually, so anyway, I just wouldn't rule it out. And as we know with Vickers, like Murray knows he'll get minutes. And I think we need to manage that the way we've done with Tierney a lot better. Sadly, it's not worked to this point. But I think that's going to be the type of situation we come to with Vickers. Whereas between both of these guys, most likely Trusty, but I just wouldn't rule Scales out. One of them's going to move on. Honestly, I wouldn't be. You say that. Scales is a really top end championship in England. There is almost so many teams he would play for. I wouldn't rule out either like something like, I don't know, like just think of like a non-top 5 European league, and then think about one of the top 4 clubs and amongst them, making him like, oh, we want to sign you, kind of thing. I don't think so either. I mean, I don't wish him away. I'm happy. Scales can stay here as long as he wants, as long as he keeps the levels up that he's been at. We want him to get better, of course, as well. I don't think Saudi for McGregor's much of an option as well. There's a wee bit of chat about that in the comments. Kieran, see the Askew broken down car comments? No, I did not. Still want him with his. I'd rather Martin Maloney and Quinny. Kieran, great comment. Thanks very much. Appreciate that. No, I didn't. What was Askew talking about with broken down cars? I have not seen that. I don't know why he would want rid of him either. Even as like in the best case scenario, imagine Trusty does leave and then you go and get in a new centre back. Having Scales as the first centre back off the bench is, I don't think, like, who argues with that as being a good place to be in? You know, Scales, there's absolutely no, yeah, I don't think there's zero question about that. And again, like I kind of spoke about Askew the other day as well, and you guys are kind of bringing it up in the chat as well. But he is inexperienced. You know, he's not too far off in terms of Wilfred Nancy, in terms of like career history, in terms of longevity, and like Nancy had won a title before coming here. And again, Motherwell are doing great and all the rest of it. Fine. More likely that Askew can scale up domestically, where Nancy couldn't transition over in the period that he was given. But there is still like question marks there, you know. It's just bad pattern. Fair enough. I didn't see the Bobadilla. No, I'm not sure. Bobadilla, I'm not too familiar with who that could maybe be referencing, to be honest with you. So Bunchies joining us live and loud, by the way. Fist bumps to you all. And I think like we really need to see some of this actually materialize into business sooner rather than later. Maybe we're getting business done and it's all just going to be like announced on day one of the window and stuff. But there is much work to be done. Now there's probably a lot of guys here that their futures and their outcome is probably still somewhat undetermined. Nothing's a guarantee. We'll go back to number one again. Throw everyone on. So yeah, a lot's possible still. But yeah. The goalkeeper one's an interesting one as well, because I'm quite impressed by how Sinisalo's developed over the last couple of matches. Stuttgart and the Rangers games are absolutely, you know, if you want audition time for a Celtic player, it's those types of matches. And he's, for me, come out with it pretty much with flying colours. Yeah, he's not kept clean sheets in all of them and whatever, but all things being equal, I think he's done very, very well with the defence in front of him, with the opportunities in the game that have presented himself. And but we still do have another goalkeeper spot to fill. I don't think we can take Ross Doohan in as number 2 next season. I think we need to keep him as that kind of Scott Bain number 3 homegrown element. Yeah, Nancy's maybe a wee bit further down. I've not compared their track records. So that's interesting to hear if you've done that. Sell Maeda, sign Elijah. Yeah, I think that's probably going to be part of the plan, really, isn't it? Yeah, I think you're echoing what I'm saying there, Sligo boy, in terms of we need another player to come in. Now I've got some goalkeepers that I really think would be great for us, but I just don't know what our kind of appetite is, what our budget would be. I think with Sinisalo rising in popularity and credence, you know, he's just doing a lot better. The appetite to spend money or commit big wages lessens. So I get the feeling that we're going to go for like budget prospect type thing. And I think in terms of guys that we could get, I don't know, some of them would be hard to get into Europe because goalkeepers all want to be number one. And if they see Sinisalo playing, yeah, they'll all fancy their chances of coming in and competing and whatever. But it is risky that you go from being a starter and stuff like that, your career's on the way up, to then on a bench somewhere. So it's the better Sinisalo does, the kind of harder it is for us to recruit a goalkeeper. I think that'll come with age. I think with one of the penalties or one of the shots, I seen him almost save but didn't. You could tell there was just a bit of a weakness. You know, he did look a bit thin armed, is maybe the way to say it. And I kind of get that bulk up thing. It's not that you want him to be like Schmeichel, like a formidable kind of wall player almost, but you just want more strength in those big limbs when they get extended. It is a bit of a dream job for all of us, Paul. I think number 3 goalkeeper is the dream job what Ross Doohan's got Scott Bain used to occupy. But number 2 is a bit different because you actually need that guy to be used probably at some point because, again, just force majeure. It will just happen. You'll need the second keeper. You'll want to use them at some point. And Doohan has probably showed he could play like the Auchinleck Talbots and those types of fixtures whenever they come around, fine. But if something bad was to happen and you need to play a guy in place of Sinisalo, you need someone that can deliver. And again, in that same sort of scales principle, Sinisalo is a very sellable player for Celtic. We paid £1 million for him. He's now a senior international. And if he goes into being, he's 24, if he goes into being our number 1 goalkeeper, the price of him goes to being like £8 million for me, minimum. Never mind if it's like actually like a rich team that wants him, you can probably make that £12 million, like Chelsea or something like that. You know what I mean? Chelsea love goalkeepers. If Chelsea rocked up and tried to give us 12 to 15 million quid for him, you know Celtic would take it, you know? So I wouldn't rule out crazy things like that happening in the transfer window, especially towards the end of the window when he might be playing for us and doing quite well, and maybe something else could happen. You know what the goalkeeping situation is like in the transfer market? It's a very much a domino effect type situation. So force majeure. I don't know if I've said that wrong or right. Force majeure. Force majeure. I don't know, sorry. Watson is already signed for Aberdeen. Maswanise. I don't mind the thought of Maswanise. I would have loved to have signed him in January because I think it would really have helped and fitted the team. But outside of the immediacy of the league, I'm not sure Maswanise. I would probably rather Elijah Just because I just think he's got maybe a bit more room to grow. Not totally ruling him out, all the same. Yeah, force majeure. I'm pretty sure I'm saying that right. Don't think Sinisalo would be number 1 come the summer. Interesting. There's a few goalkeepers that are out there that are interesting, that are within range, are within bracket. The number 1 goalkeeper I'd love to see for Celtic, we mentioned Getafe, and I mentioned Getafe in the Rangers breakdown video that went out yesterday, and their goalkeeper is the number 1 guy. I'd love to see him at Celtic. Honestly, the guy's a bona fide point winning goal, like he wins points. There's just no getting away from it. Guy's a hero. David Soria. I'm sure Sinisalo qualifies as homegrown for English League registration rules too, which adds significant bit to his value for the big clubs as a backup option. Liam Devine, if that is the case, I'm sure that detail should be known to Celtic. Maybe Celtic love to watch this channel, of course, as we know. So they're all liked and subscribed and all that good stuff. So if they weren't aware of that, then they'll probably be double checking that as we speak right now. And yeah, man, like 12 million quid at that point is very much on the table for Chelsea, Nottingham Forest, Everton. Just trying to think of teams that collect goalkeepers. Not that Everton really do, actually, to be honest with you, but certainly the other ones, Brighton, Brentfords, and whatever. What are the top 5 players you would sign from the SPL? Oh, that's a great little way to take this topic Tuesday round. Okay, top 5 in the SPFL. I would have Elijah Just. I don't know about position, but I'd certainly have him top 5. Again, at the weekend, rated 62 out of 100 without actually getting a goal or an assist. 8 balls into the box. He's only won 1 dribble here technically, but I think he's probably done a few more. Big chance created, a few attempted assists. The guy's just effective in the final third. And also look at this, 5 tackles won. Jules won 8, 11 lost, which, you know, for a winger, that's pretty damn good. 2 interceptions, very good winning the ball back. Incredible. 5 tackles won is incredible. Does everything. At 25, I think if you scale him up into a more dominant team like Celtic, I think he just rips. I think he just does really well. I just don't, yeah. I think there's so much proof in the pudding with what you've seen of this kid in terms of just what his actual talent is, despite the system, the opposition, the team he's in. Even win, lose or draw, he's still coming out with very good performances. He's still very effective for Motherwell. And I think when we had him on the screen and we kind of slid him in here, I think we would all be probably quite happy with him. Coincidentally, and I'm just going to do this for convenience because we mentioned him earlier in the stream, but it wasn't on my radar at all until in the January window we were linked to him. We didn't actually press on with the transfer. I don't know why. I think it's something that if we were linked to him, having paid more attention to him since, I think it would have made a huge difference to us, and that is Miguel Chaiwa, 21 years of age, Zambia international, not been here too long, but as a player that from when I've seen him play against us not too long ago and seeing his games and how he's been doing since we were linked to him in January. Again, I think if you're looking around the league, I like Elliot Watt a lot as well, don't get me wrong. But this guy feels like the guy that would come into Celtic and would scale up, would do well. I'm really behind the thoughts of that one. I'm just trying to think. We mentioned Connor Allen before realising he's an ex-Rangers player, and that's just probably never going to happen. So I do think Connor Allen's got a worthy shout out. But Luke Graham is one that's been brought to my attention by a lot of you guys. I see him in a lot of scouting kind of profile stuff that I follow as well for under 23 defenders across Europe. He profiles amongst the best in the continent, or amongst the top 10 leagues, or whatever the category is that Scotland gets factored into. He's done very well. Stephen Presley was in charge of like individual player development and performance and that kind of thing at Brentford before becoming the Dundee manager. And I don't know what this guy's total background is or whatever, but you get the feeling that this guy is really prospering under the manager. The system suits him, and as a defender, he's really showing the best version of himself. Again, looks very capable of scaling up and moving into our team quite reasonably. So I think that is a top 3 or 3 of the top 5 kind of picked himself, because although I do think there is like good talent across the league right now, I'm not really sure we're going to be signing anyone from Hearts. Obviously, we're not going to be buying anyone from Rangers. And really, outside really, how many other players do you want to actually think about? Imagine they come into the squad. Now, Dave Watson would be somebody I would discuss normally at this point, but like I say, I'm sure he's already signed a pre-contract to go to Aberdeen, which is fine. And depending on manager and stuff like that, Dave Watson's a signing that could quickly turn bad. Like somebody comes in and he just doesn't get minutes and he's not really useful. Whereas the 3 we've spoke about already, I'm quite confident that they would be useful to pretty much any manager that would come in. They would supplement the squad, enhance the squad, and give us guys that domestically we know would be able to cut the mustard. Again, as I'm glancing across this, I have been a bit of a fan of Killian Phillips, but seeing where St Mirren are, and I don't think he's really kicked on, so it's hard to really think about him in any real glowing terms. So I'm then kind of drawn to Falkirk. And when I think about Falkirk, excluding Connor Allen, the one player where we're linked to in January, and I think has, again, sadly, you're maybe just playing the game a little bit because he's a homegrown Celtic Academy player. But I think there's a place in the team for Calvin Miller somewhere at some point. He's looked very effective for Falkirk this year. I think by all accounts, this move was this close to happening in January. I think it was all but done at one stage and then fell through at the last minute. And, he doesn't do it every week, but I think off the bench and rotating for us when we've got, just think about him being the Luke McKeown of wingers, and eventually when we've got, if you imagine, I hope Forrest gets extended, right? A lot of you guys think Yang leaves. But if you imagine this is like, I don't know, Elijah Justice in here as a winger, Tunecki's on the left. Having somebody like Calvin Miller to play, Falkirk, Kilmarnock and whoever else midweeks, or the weekend, after we've got like a bit of a fixture pile up, I wouldn't be against that entirely. Some of you guys might think that's a bit unambitious, a bit low level. Maybe you're better going and getting the next Yang or the next Tunecki, go and get a young prospect from the bargain basement of Europe, which, we're probably going to do anyway, if we can be honest about it. Maybe we're going to do that a bit more on the right wing, since that seems to be the area that needs the most attention. And I say Calvin Miller is a guy that will be very Celtic priced, and I think fits the team. Could probably do a bit of cover at left back as well, which, and maybe you guys will remember, is Calvin Miller the left back that kept Tierney out the team? Remembered how Tierney was like nowhere to be seen, and it was pure chance that Collins and Ronnie Dyla seen Kieran Tierney. I'm fairly sure Calvin Miller was the guy at that point in terms of young prospect left back. You don't see any value in Scotland at this time. I think with the 3 we've already looked at, Graham, Chaiwa and Just, I think they would all enhance the squad. Do they? Now let's imagine a best case scenario for a moment where we win the league, we get into the Champions League, and let's just, go right away with the fairies on this one and say we qualify for the Champions League as well. How many of these players would still be effective or useful? Calvin Miller would probably really follow in the footsteps of Luke McKeown and probably get no European exposure. Luke Graham, probably the same. But Chaiwa, I think, would really give us something we've not had in Europe in a long time. So I'm maybe kind of mixed on your POV there, Strange Love the Doctor, on the best case scenario. I think on any sort of realistic scenario we're about to walk into, all of these players are fine for Europa League and kind of get us going. Because again, as much as we can all see the amount of business that needs done, I don't think we can really expect or even imagine in our wildest dreams that it's going to be the sort of like, I think when we looked at that squad a minute ago and how bare it was, you would want to spend 40 or 50 million quid on that and really redevelop it and reimagine the attack and how the midfield is constructed, because you would have a lot of scope to do that. But it's not good. It's just going to be patchwork. We're going to probably sign like 4 guys for 12 million quid from within the league. Some of the guys we've already mentioned probably. And then from there, new manager comes in and maybe has like 10 million quid to buy a guy that he really wants, and we go from there. So I think that's the most realistic situation. And in that situation, I think the guys that we're looking at are, I think they've shown enough to be able to back them and believe in them, I suppose. And I think it's probably went past us now in terms of price and probably appeal and everything. Maybe he's been injured recently, so maybe that kind of changes things a little bit. But I've been saying it on the channel for a fair bit. But Josh Mulligan has looked like a top prospect in the league for long enough now, where Celtic really should have wrapped a deal up for this guy by now. Plays right back, right mid, centre mid. You know, got a good football brain, clearly. Hard worker. Really embodies what a lot of Celtic play has been over the last couple of years in terms of endeavour and drive on the game. And he is decisive. You know, he gets goals and assists. He's a big moments player in big matches. And he's really developed. We can't quite go all the way back from when he was at Dundee, but very effective for them in a very different situation. He's scaled up himself, you know. And yeah, I kind of knew I was going to be running on today, so apologies. But yeah, I'll be kind of running for how long I'm running. So I think Mulligan would complete the top 5, because I do think, similar to Chaiwa, I think in most of those scenarios on where we finish this year and where we could finish this year and what the domino effects for all that could be, Mulligan is quite likely useful in a lot of those scenarios, even from the bench as a right winger, away in Europe, at home, and again, even those kind of weekends after the big midweeks and when the fixture piles up. No, it wasn't him. Okay, sure. I just remember that there was I think he was a left back at one point, and I remember, you know, as that story goes with Tierney, that we did have a left back that did look like a prospect, but never made it or never like went on to be. And I wasn't sure, because I think they're similar ages, aren't they? He's 28. Calvin Miller and Tierney is what? 28. Yeah. Well, surely they'd have been in the B team at the same time. But anyway, like, I don't remember. I'm just kind of thinking on my feet here with these. So, yeah, kind of. Is this a sign? Is all this like? So we kind of started off the stream, I guess, the topic Tuesday, kind of chatting about the matches we've got coming up and how desperately we want the fans back together. We want Celtic Park to be as formidable a fortress as possible coming into these games. And Celtic maybe trying to double down in their current guys and their current form and their current situation by like seemingly not lifting the ban after the recent discussions and meetings they've had. And with everything on the line in our next 5 home matches, where we have Motherwell at home pre-split, St Mirren in the semi-final, St Mirren pre-split, and then Rangers and Hearts at home, our whole season like rests on like this, you know, and to self-harm in this way feels reductive, feels counterproductive, and feels like nothing's going to change. But then, as I say, we kind of marry that against a little bit of the rumours are circulating. Some of these players might come in before or we might get news of at least somebody before the January window opens. Might be a bit of a departure, but it might not actually be. It might just be the same old, same old. We might just go and buy all these guys for, like I say, 3 million quid each. Maybe if we're lucky, pick up a free transfer. Somebody like Eric Martel would be absolutely sensational. And then you appoint the manager. And I don't even think they know who the manager is going to be. I think they're really. I see. I can't get away from the fact that I think that Kieran McKenna will be top prospect, top option, and Celtic will wait for him at this stage of the game. So I don't think they really know who's going to get the job as much as Askew feels like the bookies' favourites, and he was pictured watching a game with John Collins or whatever it was, and yeah, a lot of free transfers roaming around. More than doubling down at this point. Exactly. That's probably exactly. It's like, in one hand, it's very on trench, it's very doubling in behaviour, and then on the other hand, there is like a green shoot of progress of change when it comes to the actual mechanics of the club, the actual way that we're doing business. We're trying to get ahead of the window opening because we know we're going to have this exodus. We're going to have this summer of everyone leaving. And again, I think that's been one of the disappointments when you go to the games, honestly, is you want the atmosphere to be good. Now, I get the whole thing of like, you don't want just the Green Brigade to be the focus of the match and, the whole stadium can sing and do stuff and whatever, right? I've been at a game in the terraces this year, right? Which, we won't go into it all too much. We spoke about it at the time. It's no secret or anything. But I was up for singing and nobody else around me was. And that was with the Green Brigade being banned. And it's all well and good saying that, but like, again, people bring up on Axom, a whole generation of fans only know the Green Brigade as being there, as being the ringleaders, as being the orchestrators of the atmosphere and leading the chants and whatnot, and are lost at sea without them. So we should definitely sign more Nordisland players. Wouldn't be a bad move, by the way, but it would be pretty expensive. We've only got good guys. They've got a wee guy that I'm quite enjoying watching called Justin Janssen. He's been fun. Well, maybe spelled it wrong. Jans, yeah, or is it Jensen? No. It's probably not, because Crowder bring up 1,000 people, isn't it? Oh no, Jansen. There we go. So many ways to spell such a simple name. This big guy looks the part. He's been good. He's a wee prospect. One to watch out for. But yeah, more of their players probably wouldn't hurt. The atmosphere has been really poor. Utrecht was the worst for me, winning 3-0 in Europe and not a peep. Yeah. I wasn't at Utrecht, was I? I went to Stuttgart at home, but I didn't go to Utrecht, I don't think. Has the board been replaced? I don't know. Yeah, I see it. That's the weird part about the business as well. And again, for the fan sentiment, somebody in the board needs replaced. I think you could replace somebody in the board, and honestly, at this stage, if they are hell bent on doubling down, I'm sure. Like, do you remember how they managed Peter Lawwell? Like, left the club and then came back as like non-executive chairman. You know what I mean? They could make it as ceremonial as they want, but they could do something and then just give the guys their tickets back and get them into the stadium, and everybody would be buzzing. I hope it's good at the weekend. I really do. I hope we're in good mood and good spirit. And sadly, I don't imagine there'll be another appointment or another meeting between them all this week, sadly. And we have to watch on, I think, in terms of how we're going to manage the season. I would, because we need to do stuff needs announced before end of the season. Like, the club should be working ahead of time business wise, whether it be the manager thing. I say I keep the Kieran McKenna philosophy out there, but so many people believe it is Askew. And yeah, I'm sure Motherwell will appreciate some confidentiality. I suppose maybe Askew himself to keep the team together because they've still got some stuff to try and achieve in their mind. Fine, I get that, but I don't know. They can kind of tell, they could kind of signal stuff. I don't know. Maybe I'm asking for too much, I suppose, if that is the case. But it does feel that, yeah, maybe these rumours. The rumours are fine, I suppose, but like a lot of the doubt has came from myself and the chat. They are only rumours. It doesn't really mean much until something's done, and I think that's something that Celtic need to start doing, is start showing a signing, show a gesture, move something around, get the fans back in, and then really run at this, because it's there to be gotten. It is still there to be gotten, but we could be the masters of our own downfall in that regard. That's, the one thing I say about Celtic and Celtic fans is it's a living contradiction all the way through it. And yeah, Nancy, like, again, like, I've got videos on it. I'll say it till the cows come home. But Nancy was like a top candidate for the job. He should have definitely been interviewed. A lot of people want to kind of rewrite stuff and say he should never have been anywhere near the job. And it's absolutely wild that he even got interviewed. Even I've heard some people go to those extents, and it's very revisionism, because if you looked at who was available, the situation and everything else, and the whole angle with it, and I'm sure it's probably what the club were after, was the kind of Ange effect. It's just, for me, ultimately, it comes down to absolutely the worst timing possible and really weak decision making from the club powers. Because from everything that came out at the time from Nancy and in interviews with people, even Martin O'Neill himself, Nancy had the choice of when he started. That's something that's quite well established if you listen to all the chat that went out at the time, during, and after. And Martin O'Neill should have 1,000%. If you beat Rangers in a semi final, you get the final, you know? And if Martin O'Neill got to the final, everything would have been totally different. I think even Nancy could have been a success. I wouldn't rule out that it could have been successful had that been the case. This will be free first week. Martin O'Neill has had since January. And again, it was something I was quite happy to highlight. And again, we'll enjoy it this week. But it's the first time we've not had midweek action in so long. And it's going to be a real breath of fresh air and a real, I think we've came through this little, we have a wee look at the fixtures again and scroll back the way. Like, we have came through a great little gauntlet over the last. I'm just going to change this so it's a bit bigger on screen. Oh, sugar. This one to magnify. But yeah, if we scroll back to 15th midweeks, fifth round. Yeah, honestly, you have to go all the way back to 14, 10, 18. Honestly, you have to go so far back before we had a midweek off. Yeah, here between Rangers and Dundee is the last time we had a midweek off. So we've just, after that, then went like back to back from Dundee United, essentially, Falkirk, Auchinleck, whatever, Bologna, Hearts, Utrecht, Falkirk, Dundee, Livingston, Killie, Stuttgart, Hibs, Stuttgart, Rangers, Aberdeen, Rangers. Like, that is incredible. It genuinely is. And yeah, Stuttgart will ultimately get pumped 4-2, right? But pretty impeccable otherwise. And yeah, last minute goals, and we're winning games by a goal. But well, fair enough, we drew with Hearts, right? Whatever. Utrecht's a bit different. But pretty sizable achievement, even just this little chapter of the season coming through the way we have. And hopefully now that we've got this week off, everyone can really like look back on it and go, we have effing grafted to get to this position. Now is the time. It's all on now. This is when the split really comes into being a split. It's never really been a genuine split for so many years. And even when it's been like Rangers versus Celtic for the title in years gone by, the split element has been a kind of a formality to just make sure that we play each other at the end of the season. Whereas now, because other leagues around Europe split, Denmark and Belgium and Holland has got a bit of a different thing. They do playoffs for European places. Maybe we should do something like that. But this year it's the first time we've got a genuine split where the team that, do you remember USG? The first time they made headlines across Europe is they won the league in Belgium before the split, and after the split they didn't. And some people were like, "Oh, that's kind of crap," and whatever for them. That could and hopefully happens to Hearts this year. They might be top before the split. It doesn't mean much. So it's the first time ever the split's really going to come into its own. And I think for our squad, for our team, for everything that we're at right now, they can focus on 5 games before and 5 games after. Maybe the cup final comes into it for 11 games between now and the end of the season. And it all comes down to this. And everyone's pulling in the one direction and everyone goes for it. And again, it maybe ties back into the wee bit of the topic we've got here for you want the fans to help give that some buoyancy. Neil retained until January. Yeah, again, I just think that the timing is for me the biggest factor. It's not really the personnel, and even the one centre back thing, which I think somebody mentions. There's a few mentions of it in here as well. I get that. I think we dominate the ball. So, like, honestly, for most games, that's a system we could have got to grips with. We really could. You know, I don't think it was beyond us at all. Anyway, that's maybe another topic for another day. But yeah, we're maybe doing business again ahead of time. The Rogsa move looks okay. And then we've got no progression. Yeah, I'm not really talking about that specifically. I'm talking about, again, like the disruption. Again, it's all been kind of, I don't think it was ever a secret that could have happened. That was the only thing I kind of say. Not necessarily in defense of it or whatever, but everyone kind of acted surprised about it when it happened. And I was like, I remember reading a post on social media saying they were going to do this. And everyone's acting like, oh, what's happening here? Yeah, exactly. I think it's a matter of timing. And he did show maybe the flaws that Nancy showed even in the time, and with this, those flaws would have probably showed up at some point. And maybe it's a good thing that they showed up when they did rather than like later on further down the road or something. I don't know. That's an interesting kind of way of thinking as well. Yeah, MLS isn't great, but it is fun. It is a lot of fun. They don't really think much of defending there, it must be said. Anyway, I've kind of run out of steam. I think they were the two main things I wanted to kind of wrestle with. There wasn't too much from the chat to kind of add into the situation other than the top 5 SPFL players, which we went through. There wasn't really any shocking revelations there, I don't think, but I think it's really for any realistic situation that could happen and even the best case situation that could happen. There's not really that many that you would realistically look at. Sadly, although I do agree Den Bosch is a good looking player, I don't think we're going to sign anyone from Antwerp again. I just don't think so. But thanks to everyone that's tuned in today. The Rangers breakdown, totally all about the football, went out yesterday. If you've missed it, feel free to check it out. I'll probably have it on screen right now if you're watching this after we've been live. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. We'll have a video tomorrow. I'm not sure if we'll do live or what we'll get up to. Have a wee brainstorm about that later. Maybe do a wee post to keep you up to speed and in the loop. But we'll either go for like a kind of 11 o'clock start or maybe a 4 o'clock, but probably more of an 11. Try and get a wee bit of that groove for the next couple of weeks. But yeah, thanks a lot, everyone. Hail, hail. And I'll catch you on the next one.